Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crystalline's Virtual Learning Club. My name is Sarah Anene, and this is the English language class. Our lesson for today is Lexis. This is a very important part of any English language examination that is written in Nigeria. What is Lexis? This is an aspect of English language that focuses on the relationship between words. There are 8 different lexical items in English. They are known as parts of speech. First is a noun. A noun is a word that identifies a person, an animal, a place, or a thing. Thing in this context could be something concrete like tree, or something abstract like an idea. A pronoun is a word that is used instead of a noun. We'll talk more about pronoun in a bit. And then a verb is an action word like dance, eat, go. And then an adverb is a word that qualifies or modifies a verb, an adjective, or other adverbs. Adverbs generally tell you more about verbs and they are used to tell you when, how, or where an action takes place. For example, Sarah eats every day. Every day is telling you more about how often I eat. Or Sarah likes to run quickly. So quickly is qualifying or modifying the word run, is telling you how I like to run. Next is adjective. An adjective is a word that qualifies a noun. It tells you more about the noun. So while an adjective tells you more about the noun, an adverb tells you more about the verb. An example of adjective is beautiful. An example could be Shola is beautiful. So the word beautiful is telling you more about Shola. And then interjection is an exclamation part of speech like, oh, I forgot. And then a preposition is a word that tells you the position of a noun or a pronoun in relation to another noun or pronoun. Like the book is under the table. I am telling you the position of the book in relation to the table. Lastly, we have conjunction. Examples are so, since, but, and etc. They help to join two words, phrases, or clauses together. So these are the different parts of speech we have in English language. More about pronouns. Like I said, a pronoun is a word that is used to replace a noun. It helps to avoid repetition. So rather than using the same noun over and over, we use pronouns instead. There are different types of pronouns. First, we have personal pronouns. Personal pronouns refer to a specific person or thing in a sentence, and they are divided into 2 types. So we have subjective personal pronouns and objective personal pronouns. Subjective personal pronouns are used as the subject of a sentence. When I say subject, what I'm referring to is the person or thing that is carrying out the action in a sentence. So examples of subjective pronouns are like I, you, etc. Take a look at this example. You should not go to class if you are sick. Or I went to the store to see him. Now, in this case, I am the one carrying out the action of going to the store. And so I here is the subject pronoun. The object pronoun is the opposite. It is the pronoun that is receiving the action. Here, the example is I went to the store to see him. So I am the one going to the store. So I is the subject pronoun. But him is the object pronoun because him is the one receiving my visiting. Or John really likes her. So John in this case is the subject now, but her is the object pronoun because her is the one receiving the love or the like from John. These are more examples of subject pronouns I, he, she, and then object pronouns me, you, him. And then in most cases, subject pronouns usually appear at the beginning of the sentence, whereas object pronouns appear at the end or towards the end of a sentence. This rule doesn't always apply, but that's what happens in most cases. A common mistake that students make is using the object form in place of the subject form. This example says, my colleagues and me will be discussing the plan tomorrow. What do you think is wrong with this sentence? Now, take a look at it. My colleagues and me will be discussing. It means my colleagues and me in this sentence are the ones carrying out the action of discussing, which means my colleagues and me are referring to subject pronouns. So since it is referring to subject pronoun, rather than using me, which is an object form, the correct thing that should be used is I. which is why the correct sentence here says, my colleagues and I will be discussing the plan tomorrow. Again, you can, another mistake is using the subject form in place of object form. Rather than saying, I love she and Jack, I should say, I love her and Jack, because her and Jack are the ones receiving my love. I here is the subject, whereas her and Jack are the object of this sentence. So always take note of the subject and object in order for you to use them rightly. Next is possessive pronouns. Possessive pronouns show ownership, like mine, yours, hers, etc. The very common mistakes that students make is using apostrophe when showing possession with pronouns. Now, because we use apostrophe when showing possession with nouns, like the book is for Shola's, or the book is Shola's, the book is Sarah's, we use apostrophe S. But when you're using them with pronouns, please do not use apostrophe. Now, this sentence says, the boat lost its mast. Now, if you use its here with an apostrophe, you are simply referring to it is. You do not want to say the boat lost its mast. You want to say the boat lost its mast. So please do not use apostrophe when you're showing possession with pronouns. Another one here says, the book is theirs, rather than saying the book is theirs. In fact, this word theirs with an apostrophe S does not exist in English language. Next is reflexive pronouns. These are used when the subject of a sentence is the same one receiving the action. Examples of reflexive pronouns are things like herself, ourselves, myself, oneself, etc. Now, a common mistake that students make is using the word their self or their selves. These words do not even exist in English language. Rather than saying their self or their selves, the correct thing to say is themselves. So they will go by themselves, not they will go by their self. Another example is using wrong usage of reflexive pronouns. So in this case, rather than using the correct objective pronoun, you are using the wrong reflexive pronoun. So rather than saying, please report to John or myself, the correct thing is, please report to John or me. So things like his self, their selves, these are not words in English. Avoid them as much as possible. Next is intensive pronoun. This is a pronoun that is used to place emphasis on the subject. Now, it is very, very similar to reflexive pronoun because we still use things like himself, myself, ourselves, and things like that. However, in this case, intensive pronouns help to show or help to intensify the subject. Take a good look at this example. It says the janitor himself cleaned the room. We want to emphasize that it was the janitor who cleaned the room. And so we are saying the janitor himself cleaned the room. Like I said, they look like reflexive pronouns, but they act differently. One of the differences, or one of the ways that you can differentiate them, is that you can remove intensive pronoun in a sentence and the meaning would not change. Like, you yourself must go to the police station. I could say you must go to the police station. The meaning has not changed. However, you just use it to make emphasis. Next is demonstrative pronouns. These are pronouns that are used to identify nouns or answer questions. Which one? One thing to note about demonstrative pronouns is that when you're using them, you are more likely to be pointing your finger at something. And so another thing to note is that demonstrative pronouns could be singular or plural. Singular demonstrative pronouns are this and that. But this is often used when you're talking about something that is near to you or something that is in the present. And then that is used when you're talking about something far. And then these is the plural of this, and those is the plural of that. Take a look at this example. It says, that game last night was more exciting than this one tonight. So that game, you're using that game because you're talking about something in the past, and then this one because you're talking about something in the present. Next is interrogative pronouns. These are pronouns that are used only in reference to a question. So you have things like who, what, which, whom. Please take a good look at this table so that you know when to use all of them. So you use who when you're referring to person as a subject. You use whom when you're referring to a person, but in the object form. You use whose when you're trying to show possession. You use what when you're talking about things, and then you use which when you're trying to compare. This example says, whom is she talking to? It might be tricky, but I want you to note that in this sentence, for example, whom is the object because she is the subject of the sentence. She is the one carrying out the action. She is the one talking. It says, whom is she talking to? So since she is the subject of the sentence, whom is the one receiving the action. So whom is she talking to is the correct way of answering this question. This one says, whose car is this? Of course, you're trying to ask or you're trying to find, show possession or show ownership of the car. That is why you're using the word whose. Next pronoun is relative pronoun. These are pronouns that relate back to something or someone, and we usually use them when we are trying to join two sentences together about the same person or the same thing. Just like the other pronoun we discussed, take note of when you use who, whose, whom, which, and that. This example says, this is the man who broke the window. You're using who in this sense because who, you're referring to the subject of this sentence. You're referring to the man who broke the window. Look at this one. She knew the family whose house we bought. You're talking about or you're trying to talk about the ownership of the house, which is why you're using the word whose. And then, like I said, you use whom when you're talking about objects. Like they have found the lady whom they want to interview. Remember, they are the ones that are doing the interview, and the lady is the one being interviewed. So they are the ones carrying out the action. They in this sentence is the subject, whereas the lady is the object. That is why we used whom in that sentence. Next is indefinite pronouns. Indefinite pronouns are used in reference to a person or things that lack specific number. When you're talking about general group, you're talking about indefinite pronouns. Things like everyone, everybody, anyone, anybody, they are all indefinite pronouns. Please take note of this table because you want to find out which indefinite pronoun is singular and which of them is plural, because it will help you to avoid common mistakes that people make. An example is everybody. Everybody is on this list. It's under singular indefinite pronoun. So when you're using everybody, you want to use the verb that corresponds with a singular pronoun. So this says everybody must pay their school fees. This is wrong because their is referring to plural, but everybody, remember, is a singular indefinite pronoun. So the correct thing is everybody must pay his school fees. Another mistake is lack of consistency. This is very common in exam where you see one should endeavor to pay, this sounds more appropriate. One should endeavor to pay his school fees. It sounds nice. However, you must ensure consistency when you're using indefinite pronouns. So this should be one should endeavor to pay one's debt. So whatever the sentence is, so long as you have started with one, you should also go ahead and complete it that way. The ninth one, which is the last one, is called reciprocal pronouns. These are pronouns that refer to mutual set of people. They are just each other and one another. A very good way, you have each as well, but a very good way to differentiate or to know when to use each other or to know when to use one another is that when you're referring to just two people, it is best to use each other. But when you're referring to more than two people, you can use one another. So common mistake made is using reflexive pronoun instead of reciprocal pronoun. So a common mistake is saying they both have mutual love for themselves. When you say themselves, this is reflexive, right? The correct thing should be they both have mutual love for each other because this is an exchange. Both of them love each other. And then we are using each other because we are using the word both here, referring to two people. And another one is instead of using one another, using each other, like I said, one another should be used when you're referring to more than two, and then each other should be used when you're referring to just two. So thank you very much for listening. See you in the next class. Thank you very much.